Welcome to VoteProPot-Cast, the award-winning cannabis news podcast brought to you by VoteProPot.com. Here are your hosts, Phil Adams, Jay Britton, and Andrew McCreadies.
The Surgeon General says it's time to stop locking people up for weed. Are state governments creating their own drug cartels? And what percentage, and you guys answer, what percentage you guys think percentage of the people working at home admit to getting high while working at home?
100% in my house.
100.
Well, we're going to explore that and so many other things. Hello, folks. Welcome once again to another fine episode of VoteProPot-Cast. We're glad to have you with us.
Got the old team back together.
Got the team back together, doing better than ever. And now I should also point out, Jay, that this episode of VoteProPot-Cast is sponsored by our friends over at Cannabis.net. Were you aware of that?
I heard it through the grapevine. Hey, Kurt!
So check out Cannabis.net for all kinds of content, news, cultural crap, the whole bit.
It's absolutely one of the best websites on the internet when it comes to if you want to be a informed cannabis consumer, or if you work in the industry, or if you're a politician and you're dealing with cannabis regulation.
Or an activist or whatever. Yeah.
And they offer a lot more than just news articles, although their articles are awesome.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of stuff going on there. So yeah,
great site.
Where can you find that, Phil?
You can find Cannabis.net at, write this down, Cannabis.net.
How do you spell net?
With an N.
Okay, got it. All right. Thank you.
So what percentage of people are getting high, admit to being rocked at getting high at work?
Well, here's an article out of the LA Weekly. It says, based on new research, it suggests that 15, that's the magic number, 15% of Americans working from home during the pandemic were consuming marijuana. The data the research is based on came from a poll conducted by AmericanMarijuana.org. So 15%, what do you think? That sound about right?
It would have been higher, but people couldn't find weed.
Right, yeah, maybe that's
what percentage, Andrew, what percentage of those are lying?
Yeah, right. It's at least 15%. I think.
I would have guessed 85%. 85%. If you'd have just come up to me and asked me, like, I did in the intro, I would have come up with probably 20%. So
wow.
But 15 is kind of low, but I don't know. My expectations may be out of whack.
Well, how many people are not going to tell, be honest about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, especially if someone has a government job or they work for the state or the county,
Yeah.
You can do that.
It depends on whether they're taking people's names in the survey or just if it's anonymous, then people are probably going to be pretty honest.
Yeah, when I volunteered for the DC Cannabis campaign, there were people to sign the petition. They're going, man, I'm going to vote for it, but I can't.
Yeah, right.
Sorry,
I can't put my name down.
I'm putting my name on that.
How many people do you guys know now? We're both in legal states who won't get their card.
Oh, I know
quite
a number of people. Yeah, I know a number.
Really? I don't know that many who would get it, except they're just not going to, or they could, but they're not going to.
They don't want their name on a list, is what people tell me, which is silly. But
no, I know two guys. Here, the reason: one guy, he has guns and he has a permit to carry.
I see.
And he knows. He goes, man, I'm not going to give up my permit to carry to just.
So that's a law in Maryland, right?
Right. And another friend is like, you don't put it on it. You don't get the card. You don't want the man to know. This guy's one of those paranoid
conspiracy guys.
What? What? You smoke weed? Big fucking deal.
Well, it's a state issued card.
Right,
so
I know,
but
I know a lot of people
in Annapolis isn't going to do
I know
anything.
several people who won't do it. They're just afraid to do it. Let me look at this article. Participation rates dipped a bit by age, or the older people were less likely to admit they smoked on the clock. Not the case for younger demographics. The data found more than 1 in 3 remote employees ages 30 to 49 use cannabis during work. So that's 33% of the younger folks,
Yeah.
That's pretty significant. It also varied, and here's an interesting one to me. It varied depending on gender. The poll found that about 36.6% of men took part, 38% of women. So more women are getting high during work hours than men.
Well, that's one thing we found, and I've noticed since it's become legal, more and more women are enjoying cannabis.
That's interesting.
While they're working.
No,
or not while they're working.
I think a lot of women, that's the reason they didn't smoke it, because it was illegal.
There is at least one person who would like to see things changed on the legal front. The Surgeon General has said that it is time to stop incarcerating people for using cannabis. And he's been on a couple of the news shows. He they are asking him questions about, because they've introduced the legalization bill last week in the Senate. So, all the people going through the mill here on the news programs are getting asked, and especially the Surgeon General in this case being asked questions about the bill. And what he said was that, first of all, he acknowledges that the data exists showing that there are medical benefits to cannabis. And his point is that science should inform our drug policy, which makes sense to me, right?
Right. Well, I mean,
Absolutely.
was a story we did a couple of weeks ago that made big news. Probably, if not one of the most conservative Supreme Court justices, Clarence Thomas, came out and published a paper that said, cannabis being illegal is ridiculous, basically.
Right.
I'm paraphrasing, but
right.
Something to that effect. He said it a lot more clearly than I did.
That was a legal term he used.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, this is bullshit, man. I think that's what he said.
No, he didn't say
but
that.
I mean, he's like one of the most conservative Supreme Court justices on the bench, and he said this. And again, he has a lot of libertarian leanings. So
well,
that's going to be
I think conservatives, if they're true to the name, are people who tend to want government out of people's lives. Don't tell me what I can and can't do unless there's a compelling reason, And I think he's just kind of being true to his conservative bona fides. Well,
I think, but he had the balls to come out and say it. And
but I think so many people who call themselves conservatives are just staunchly anti-drug. And the answer is that the government's got to tell you what to do because it's not good for you, or because it's wrong, or whatever.
Right.
I know. Well, last week, old Chuck Schumer, stood on the floor of the Senate and said he's going to make it a priority to decriminalize or legalize cannabis.
Right on
the federal level.
And he made a statement back in January or February, something like that, talking about how he was going to introduce legislation soon. And he said, basically he said, this is America. Let people do what they want. It's a free country. Let people do what they want. And you know what? If he means that, and I hope he does, then I agree with him 100%. Let people do what they want.
In Maryland, the House Speaker, Adrienne Jones. She said that she's going to make it. She's starting a panel to research the best way to legalize adult use in Maryland. And though it's not going to be legalized during this session, she's saying that the legislation has been written up and it's going to be voted on next year. And they actually even talked about putting it on the ballot.
Why do you think it's taken so long, Andrew? I mean, Maryland's
It's Maryland.
No, but Maryland's a very liberal state, and they've done a very good job. You have to say they've done an excellent job with their medical program.
Well, yes and no. It took them 4 years to get it off the ground.
Yeah.
In Maryland, they might do it right, but they take forever.
Yeah, I think that what you're saying, Andrew, is it's not a question of whether they're liberal or not. It's a question of how the machine works in Maryland politics. Right. It works slower than some. Right. Apparently the machine works pretty quickly in Virginia. You guys decided you want it legal. Right. Boom, it's legal.
Yeah, but in fairness, I'll tell you this. My dispensary here in Virginia, I just went there this week. They don't have squat. They got nothing. All they have right now in stock is cartridges, vape cartridges. That's it. No gummies, no tinctures, nothing.
But that'll change.
I hope so. Well, it was better a year ago. It's gotten worse, but maybe that's the COVID thing.
Because more people had their cards and they bought it.
That's true, Andrew. You're right. And I think it's a demand thing.
I don't think they didn't order it. They sold out.
Yeah, and of course, it's legal to grow here now, and hopefully we'll have flower available in the not too distant future.
Are you going to put some seeds in the ground, Jay?
I've thought about it, but no, you guys asked me that last week. I thought about it, but I just haven't had time, to be honest. Okay. And now it's getting towards the middle of summer. So
why would you do that? You're going to sit there and spend all this time, months and months, growing it just so your son can come back and pick all the buds off and head back to Nashville.
Well, the thing is,
some fucking rock and roll band.
The thing is, really, I mean, and this is kind of thing we've touched on before. So many in the industry, especially the big guys, are so paranoid about home grow. It's going to take away from our, you know,
that's not
that's
that is so not true.
ridiculous.
It's. I mean,
Do you think Anheuser-Busch is losing sleep over homebrew?
Right, exactly. It's just there's no way.
And the people who make their own still go out and buy it, which is
They do.
true.
Well, because you can only grow on a couple of plants. So how many varieties
how much can you
have?
make? Yeah.
Right. And there's a million ways for it to screw up. So there's a good chance you're not really going to have.
Let me tell you something.
Good weed.
99.99% of the people growing shit at home are growing shit weed because they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah. I know what I'm doing.
And also, they do the number one mistake. They take a seed that they got out of a bag of weed.
Right.
You just do not do that.
So why do you not do that, Andrew? I never knew that.
Because the chances are you're not going to get a good plant. What you need because we don't know how how did that seed end up in that bag? What fertilized it? Because a lot of times you'll have even sometimes indoor grows, and there's just some wild hemp growing somewhere, and a little piece of pollen gets in there and fertilizes a couple buds. Next thing you know, you got all these seeds that are basically just hemp.
And you don't know if it's male or female. There's just so many problems.
So you got to buy them. You got to go to, does like Burpee sell?
No, there's all kinds of online. You can buy feminized seeds. So you really, the chances of it being you getting a male plant are going to be really slim. You also have what you call auto bloom. So you don't have to worry about, because a lot of times it's got to have 12 hours of light and 12 hours of dark. And if you screw it up, you screw it up. That plant jumps back into vegetative state and it becomes a hermaphrodite. And then all of a sudden all your buds start getting all these little white seeds. It's awful,
Yeah.
So,
well, I don't think people realize. I have a couple friends growing now, that it's legal, and they bought the, tents, and they're doing the whole thing. I don't think they realize how difficult it is. So, and
also, they don't realize how little they really are going to get.
That's right.
No one's going to sit there for 6 months and have the patience to get
a half an ounce of weed that sucks.
Right. To get also, right.
Yeah.
But to get
leaves off of a male plant.
Right. But if you want a plant that's going to yield like a half pound of weed, that's a sizable plant,
Right. Where are you going to put that?
Right. And it depends on how many buds it has or how tight the buds you have on it.
And I can go down to my dispensary and for $38 buy an eighth of whatever the fuck I want.
And it's primo.
Right. Or you can go buy an ounce.
Incredible.
And it's awesome, right?
8 different eights.
Right.
Different kinds of weed. And I don't know about you, but a lot of people like me it's like
variety.
cheese
you
and
like
wine.
the variety, right?
Variety.
Yeah. You don't like to eat the same thing every time, yeah.
Got a story here, fellas. And this is from John Stossel, who is a libertarian. He writes a column. He writes some really interesting columns. He's a smart guy. If you like that kind of politics, and he has an article here about it's called, the title is "State Governments Are Creating Their Own Drug Cartels," and it says much of what government does is tax people to try to fix problems that the government has created. And if you stop and think about that, that is so true.
Yeah. Well, that's the way it's always been. True. I mean, that's just their MO.
He goes on to talk about, and I've preached on this for 2 years now, California, because that's the perfect example. Illegal sales still thrive in California because politicians make distribution pointlessly difficult. You have to have a $50,000 safe.
A $50,000 safe?
$200,000 security system, $100,000 to pay a consultant to make an 800-page application just to get a permit.
Right.
Think about that for a minute.
So they're determining how much you need to spend on this, not what kind you... If I can get a $10,000 safe on sale on eBay,
well, there's a spec. You have to have a safe that meets these requirements, and it just.
But that's how much they cost.
Yeah.
Okay.
Every single plant must be weighed, tagged, and tracked from seed to sale. And this information is not being used to benefit anybody. It's strictly to create jobs for government people. Yeah. That's all it is. Well, typical.
It's to control it so it doesn't get it. You don't start growing it and selling it on the black market.
But, and we talked about Governor Newsom. His solution to the fact that the black market is just thriving in California was to spend another $100 million to bail out the companies who can't make any money because of California's
bailing out marijuana companies. Oh man, what does the world come to? America, what a country.
I'm shaking my head.
Politicians are so arrogant and ignorant that they even lose money when they take over profitable illegal industries. Bookies once let people bet on a horse race without going to the track. Politicians called them criminals and they said the government would put an end to the crime of off-track betting. So what did they do?
OTV.
They create legal betting,
Yeah.
and then they have so many regulations that nobody can make any money at it.
Right.
The bookies are still making money at betting because the government screws it up like everything else. It's a really interesting article. I think you should go check it out if you're interested in the topic. It's John Stossel.
There was an off-track betting license in Frederick County that became available. And I know my brother and I were approached. We were like, no, thank you. We're not interested. Oh, and a lot of people were approached to see if they wanted. And a lot of people said, nope, don't want to run off-track betting.
Well, he lists some other states, and Maryland's one of them. In Illinois, for example, only social equity veterans are allowed to get, allowed into the game. It says here that the bureaucrats' rules are so complex that a full year after legalization, 0 new licenses have been issued because nobody can figure it out. Meanwhile, the politically connected people got every single license. One billionaire from the Wrigley Gum Factory paid $155 million for 6 dispensary licenses. And now what's happening, and this is in a separate article I read recently, these multimillionaires who bought, let's say, these licenses, guess what they're doing with them? They're selling them.
Yeah.
They're on the market now. They're selling their licenses for 10 times what they paid for them. And they paid millions for the license.
Right.
That's where they see the profit going. The point of this all is because of the government, the little guy is pretty much squashed. They're just not even in the game.
And as I've said before, and I'm just going to continue to say it, the cannabis industry is a microcosm of the relationship between politics and commerce going back, decades. They call it crony capitalism. The big guys can play because the government makes it harder for everybody else to play. The big, the powerful, the connected, the well-organized, they get to play, and everyone else gets crushed.
They're the ones actually writing up the legislation.
That's right. They're the ones writing up the legislation.
That's true with everything in government. I mean, let's face it, the lobbyists are the ones who write the rules, who write the law.
They actually write the legislation.
Yeah. Absolutely. He closes out the article by saying, legislation does not have to be stupid. And he gives examples of states that are doing it right. Oregon, Colorado have reasonable rules, and so does Oklahoma. Anyone can get a cannabis license, he says, provided you've lived in the state for 2 years. That's all you need.
Yep.
Is to live in the state for 2 years. So
that's Oregon or all 3 of those?
Colorado, Oregon, and Oklahoma are the examples he uses.
Right. Okay.
And he says you get a lot more innovation, more entrepreneurs coming into the market, and you get a lot better businesses, more run better, and it's just a much better system in those states.
Welcome to fiscal conservatism.
Well, it's market fairness,
Welcome to the free market.
The problem is the government thinks they should pick winners and losers, and that never works.
Well, they do pick them.
But it doesn't work.
But it doesn't do what they say it's going to do. It works really well, but not for what they say it's going to do. Amazon, we talk about big guys. You don't get any bigger than Amazon.
If you can own Amazon and afford to go up to space, you're not doing too badly.
Yes.
So there's an article here I found really interesting today, guys, and this is it's in the Marijuana Times, and it's written by a guy named Jamie Steigerwald. I hope I pronounced that.
Steigerwald sounds right.
Could be Steigerwald.
Steigerwald.
But we talked about, I don't know, it was 2 months ago, beginning of June. Bezos came out and said that the Amazon was very pro-cannabis legalization. They were going to actually lobby and put money into getting the MORE Act passed and so forth and so on, right?
Yep.
Well, after that, the subsequent 2 months, there's been shit all over the internet about, especially with cannabis companies worried that Bezos and Amazon are trying to take over the delivery business of weed. Okay, when you hear that initially, you go, wow, why not? I mean, he's pretty much got that system down. But this gentleman here owns a company by the name of, let's see here, it is called Nug Avenue, and they're one of the big delivery companies in Los Angeles. Now, he's written an article saying it's not going to happen. Amazon's not going to take over delivery, and here's why. And he makes some really great points here. He says, ever since Amazon's bombshell announcement came out, people have been freaking out. Perhaps the fear is understandable. After all, the behemoth online retailer has been blamed for helping drive huge businesses out of business, including Circuit City, Tower Records, Borders, exactly, Andrew. And he said, but even the federal government, even though they have, recreational cannabis is becoming legal everywhere, it doesn't mean Amazon is going to be able to get into that delivery market and be successful at it. And here are some of the reasons why. Delivery services need to hand off cannabis to the person who bought it. It's just like where you have legal delivery of alcohol. You can't just leave it on the doorstep.
Yeah, that's right.
And Amazon is not set up for that. So in other words, if you call in and order some weed,
they are.
They don't have the time and the personnel to stand by your door and make what he says they don't.
So why do you say they are?
They can do, well, not 100%, but they can do it. They can ship me because I had at my apartment complex, they have the Amazon boxes where I get a text from Amazon saying you got a delivery. I go to this like big wall of lockers. I enter some codes, and one of the doors pops open. I grab my bag, close the door, and that's it.
But can you do cannabis that way?
Well, I don't know if they would, but that would secure it. And only I could. But
only you could get into it. That's true. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, because you're the only one that has a key to that box. So
I'm the one with that code.
But 99% of the population doesn't have
those. Yeah.
So I mean,
Well, I think I don't know if they're doing this, but if someone isn't doing this, it'd be a great business just to do one of those boxes on your porch.
Yeah.
So the guy delivery knows the code, and he comes, puts it in the box, locks it, and leaves. That way, all the porch pirates are out of business.
That's.
Maybe, but then
they just take off. But the whole box.
Amazon is not going to leave a fucking ounce of weed on your doorstep and walk away.
Well, that's this guy's point. Yeah. He also says that as a rule, it's a perishable item. Same reason they don't deliver pizzas.
Also, a big deal is that you got to give the delivery guy cash.
Right. That's true. No. That's true. Yeah. That's what he lists that here.
Unless and until they pass the Safe Banking Act or something equivalent.
The other point he makes is that cannabis is perishable, and that high quality, marijuana flower has to be well taken care of, and you just don't stick it in a warehouse somewhere and deliver it by the millions of. It's just not going to work.
Right. The only way he could do it because he would have to actually get it from the local sources.
Yeah.
And deliver it, right?
And that's the other thing is he said, with cannabis, Amazon doesn't have a customer service kind of
model
component.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't call somebody and say, hey, I can't sleep at night. I want to do this. I want. What do you have? You would give them a bunch of. And these delivery services that are in existence now do offer that service. You can call them and say, yeah, I need something for my pain in my shoulder. I need to sleep.
And they can recommend something.
They have bud tenders on staff, and they say, oh, we have this for you, and we have it on special right now. You can get a half an ounce for X dollar. Right. So this guy, maybe he's just trying to play it safe and hoping it doesn't destroy Bezos doesn't destroy his business. But I found it kind of interesting because I don't know if you guys follow. Well, I know you do follow, like me, all the internet stuff on weed. I mean, we read it all day long.
Sure.
And man, it's been all over to Twitter and people saying, "Oh, God damn it! Amazon's going to come in and wipe us all out in the delivery business and eventually dispensary business. They'll just sell it and deliver it," which still could happen, but it would take. It doesn't fit the business model that Amazon's using now is what this guy's saying. Right, they would have to create another business.
Whole division just to do it.
A whole division, and do they want to do that? Anyway.
Well, they might.
The question is, how easy is it?
Well, let
and
me ask you a
how
question.
lucrative is it? That's the only two questions he's going to ask.
Also, wait a minute. I saw an ad the other day for Amazon Pharmacy. So they are fit. So if you have a prescription,
right?
You can't tell me they're a pharmacy that says, I'm sorry, we don't sell opiates.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, that's
Amazon is delivering opiates.
But that's different. No, they're not. It is illegal to deliver Schedule I drugs and Schedule II drugs, if I'm not mistaken. Like my pharmacy, I can't. I get all my drugs mailed to me, but they won't mail me opiates. Not that I take opiates, but when I have had to in the past, you got to come pick those up.
Well,
what about you, Andrew? Do they deliver those? Do they mail those to you? I know you were on some for your eye surgery.
I'm in too much of a hurry to get my hands on them now.
To find out.
No. You know, this whole thing, when we first started this, we were saying, we even talked to Steve D'Angelo about this. When you're talking about cannabis, and we got used to now calling it cannabis all the time. Although we were Vote Pro Pot, a lot of people are now saying, because I read an article about this the other day, they're just, fuck it. We're just going to call it weed. Okay. Weed. All this politically correct cannabis thing. Fuck it. It's weed, And
you're right.
It seems to me, weed is what a lot of people just call it.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it's like the difference between saying alcoholic beverage and saying booze, Or
but
liquor.
Weed has become kind of the vernacular. I mean, that's kind of what you hear now all the time.
Yeah.
And as recently as a couple of years ago or 3, you're right. When we had Steve on last time, we asked him that question, how he feels about using the word marijuana as opposed to cannabis.
He didn't like
and I loved his
marijuana.
answer.
Yeah.
He's like, whatever,
Because, when you're writing up regulations, use cannabis.
Cannabis, right.
But if we're at the party, man, would you like a bong hit of cannabis? No.
I can tell you, I probably read 100 articles a week on weed. And almost all of them use the term marijuana.
Yeah,
always.
It's true.
Well, because it's been in use for so long.
Yeah.
And also it's medical marijuana.
Medical
Right, that's
marijuana.
true.
Marijuana is the term, has been the primary term for it since we were kids.
Well, folks should give us a call on our message line, 240-257-2441, or send us an email. What do you call it? And what do you think it should be called? Some people we had a guy who used to write us all the time. Remember that? And he would note every time we said marijuana.
Yeah.
It's cannabis, goddammit. It's cannabis. I was like, dude.
And we had a guest on who said, no, I don't like calling it marijuana.
That's
because
right.
of because it has a racial history to it,
And that's fair. That's fair. And there's truth to that.
Yes. So,
absolutely. Weed does it. I'm cool with weed, man.
Weed is fine.
I like the devil's lettuce.
Yeah. I like how the Ringo called it grass.
Grass.
We were smoking grass.
Or pot, man. Pot, I think, is not bad. Nothing wrong with calling it.
And speaking of pot.
Because a lot of people are saying, oh, man, we went out last night and smoked a little pot. And,
Yeah.
Who says pot anymore, really?
I think a lot of people do.
We say pot every week, and if you want to keep in touch and keep informed, go to VoteProPot.com, and we'd love to hear from you. Send us a message, or what would be really cool is if you went on Apple Podcasts and gave us a 5-star rating. That would be awesome. And Jay's already told you how to get in touch with us. And Andrew, what else should they know about this whole extravaganza here?
We try to discuss a lot here on our podcast, but we can't even come close to scratching the surface of what's going on in this wonderful world of cannabis. So we share a lot on social networking. So go to Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter, and do a search for Vote Pro Pot.